Good morning. I had to just gulp down my tea, and that would mean I had to be gulping in your ear. Haven't got a microphone on, and I will put that on soon. Look, it's a dismal day in Sydney. I'm not good with grey days. It's essential, though, because we've had some really hot days, not scorches, but hot days, hot enough to dehydrate the earth. And certainly the earth needs a lot of replenishing because look at what we're doing to her. And please understand one thing. Earth is one living being. It's how if something happens to our foot, we can feel it. And because the brain governs the whole thing. So Earth is one living being. So what is being hurt on one side of her, the rest of the world will feel this. That shouldn't be a foreign concept or whimsical or esoteric. That should be fact. The earth is connected. Everything, the currents move things over, The currents they cycle around the earth. And land seeps into that and everything else. Ugh, good Lord. Climate change, yes, we talk about that, but we need to talk about it more in terms of the connectivity of the earth and why the Pacific region is really it's sinking. The islands are sinking because they're all volcanic. All land is volcanic. And Earth, does this thing, and unfortunately the whole process has been expedited. Hello, my darling.
Hello, my love.
Ah, gosh, trying to get through to people.
Yep.
Frustrating, huh? See this t-shirt? It's from our t-shirt range, VTs. And only if you are from Fiji will you understand what this means, because it is an expletive, and hence, but any person reading English knows that the hash, the ampersand, what is this called?
The at symbol.
Yes, that, and the exclamation mark and the full stop and things like that. Well, no, full stop's just out. That sort of, substitutes for letters that will create a word that is considered profane.
Yeah. Exclaim.
So this is it. Sometimes this word is all you need to say to just vent something. So
I asked someone in Fiji, what do you think it means? And they said vagina, and I was like, how many letters in vagina?
oh my, well, this is, I don't know how people spell.
Yeah. So
perhaps it's a bit too intelligent for its own good. I'm not saying people are not intelligent if they can't get that, because you do have to not only know the jargon of Fiji, but you've also got to be really au fait with the term au fait, and how English is used. English is really elastic in its usage, and how words get made up because, of course, it's both Germanic and Latin in origin, and every year new words are added and coined, and we're very elastic with English. It's like, rolling around Play-Doh.
So, and also, this is a written bleep.
A written bleep.
So, it's censorship.
Yes. Yes.
So instead of bleep, you got this. If you're going to write it, how do you write?
Right.
So,
like I write fuck, whoops, sorry, beep.
Yeah. So stuff like that. That needs to be,
Well, I write
censored.
Fuck with asterisks. Sometimes I think people get offended. And I do worry sometimes that I'm too profane from somebody else's perspective for other people. Because, and this is what I say, I don't find words vulgar. I find the words that have been considered profanity, like fuck and etc., etc. Not etc., etc., but fuck and all that stuff. These are just letters made up into words that help us express a frustration or an action or something.
We're just making noises, right?
Yeah, we are just making noises that make sense because we understand.
Yeah.
But if you don't understand something and you don't have that kind of, it's not lingual, oh my God, what is the polyglot type of brain, where you are able to understand many types of languages. That's what, so it's not just, you're not just a linguist.
That's you.
Yeah, well, I can, so can you. You can understand languages.
Yeah.
So, but I am quite good with languages. I
Yeah.
can converse and hear, etc. That's the polyglot's brain. And so, therefore, people like us, and there's quite a few of us, this is why people are multilingual, especially from multicultural countries that are already multilingual, like India, like Fiji, which is not multilingual so much as multi-dialect, but there are a lot of languages in Fiji. But India is truly multilingual. Europe too, but Europe is a continent made up of countries, and India is a country.
How many languages in India?
Oh my God, 27?
There's over 800 in Papua New Guinea.
I haven't got the microphone on, and I just want to pass out right now. I didn't even know that, because I love Papua New Guinea. Dwayne loves Papua New Guinea, and that's because he was brought up there partially in his teen years. He went to high school there, so he loves Papua New Guinea. 800 languages?
Yeah.
Languages, not dialects.
Not dialects. I'll just fact check that.
Okay, but regardless, Papua New Guinea is... it's interesting that it's so hard to get to and get into, because people have told me that and also other people I know have said to me, well, my ex-partner who used to live there like 40 years ago, whatever, 30 years ago, that it is one of the most beautiful countries. Dwayne has found a fact for me. Wow. Description. Papua New Guinea, a sovereign state in Oceania. Not quite sovereign. West Papua isn't sovereign. West Papua is still under Indonesian rule, because Indonesia used to be under Dutch rule, and the Dutch used to own West Papua. So now that the Dutch don't own Indonesia anymore, they think, well, no, Indonesia shouldn't own West Papua anymore. And yes, Indonesia should not own West Papua anymore. But there you go. Anyway. So Papua New Guinea is the most linguistically diverse country in the world. There are 839 living languages spoken in the country. And also bananas came from there. And also it is one of the most ancient land masses on the world surface. In the world. And some of the best designers in the world come from there. Artists too.
Isn't all the land ancient?
No, not all land is ancient.
The whole planet.
Oh, sure.
Is what I'm saying.
Yes, thank you, darling, for that information. The whole planet is ancient, but as they exist now.
Right. Okay.
Like
we're
Australia.
Civilization.
Yeah. Not civilization.
So how do you
I don't
measure
know.
that?
I don't know. Good question, scientists. How do you measure that? Look, I think that land masses have,
It's like saying how old is vintage. So how old?
Well, certainly
is
older than
ancient?
25.
What's ancient?
I love this conversation. So ask me this later. I don't know. Ancient.
Okay.
So these are wonderful facts we can come, to you with. By the way, we are about to start a new program. Now, this program is going to be member only because it's an interactive program. And what we're doing is we're asking you to ask what are questions you would like answered, and we're not going to hold back on anything, because we do want to, So what? I'm not necessarily asking us personal questions. Naff off. But you can ask me personal questions about my profession and personal questions about trauma, etc., and how it feels like. Look, if you want to talk about, if you're curious about certain things, about mental health and whatever, things like that, I am really, really happy to answer. And Dwayne is always very happy to answer as a man, his viewpoint on things like that, and relationships and things like that. But also questions you want to join in on and give your observations and insights on. So this will be closed, and it will be subscriber, and it will, please understand, friends, that as much as we would love to just continue doing everything for free because of how much we love doing what we do, what we love doing and what we do is also how we pay our bills. And because creatives are always said, Why aren't you doing this for a living? Like, because you people, not you people watching, those people don't want to pay creatives for their skill and talent and calling. But a lot of things will remain free, but I have made this call, and Dwayne and I have talked about it, and Dwayne and I agree, and we are now doing, we're making leaps of faith into us full time. Not us, well, yes, us, but also hoping that that is contagious. And gosh, I sound like that was such a fake. Sorry about that. It's like a politician's laugh. Because I didn't know what I was saying, and I was sort of laughing at myself.
It's a nice description.
It is a politician's laugh.
Politician's laugh. Yeah, sure. That's very good. That's very good.
I can descend into a cackle. I do have a public laugh. Let me see. It does come out on when I'm in media, so. Don't ask me to laugh in public then. I can't do that. Oh, I can. Oops, I just did. Okay, this would be my politician's laugh. That's it right there. No. Okay, what am I saying? I don't even know what I was saying. See, well, holy cow, I digress into different types of. I love your laugh. Your laugh is so beautiful. It is so from you and like from your cells. And it's dense and just it really is appreciative of what you're listening or what you've read. I love it. I love it. So my highest accolade, why I know I'm funny. I don't care if anyone else doesn't think so. I know I'm funny because my husband laughs. And he's laughing at my jokes, not at me. And we're usually laughing with each other.
That's right. Hilarious. Hilarious.
Yes. So, where were we? Oh gosh, trying to forget the whoa, violence, please. Life of a full-time freelance creative. This is a really bad song. This is a really bad song.
Are we having flu bomb?
Yes, we're having a flu bomb.
That kind of weather, huh?
It's that kind of weather. By the way, yes, transitional weather is always, going to be viruses in the air. There's new things. We're going from summer where viruses have been cooking after they've been, released into the earth over spring, blooming. With everything comes everything, okay? And this is why you get given all the things to build up your immunity, because there's other things in the air too, so just beware. And so the other things that are in the air and beware, well, they go and get fried or cooked or whatever over summer, and then they change over to autumn. When, autumn is blowing in cooler breezes to herald the winter. So this is like people can hurry up and harvest, etc. Come on, get the cornucopia, what we were talking about yesterday, of the bounty from spring and summer, etc. Time to sow the seeds. But when you're out and about, etc., so you do have to, be conscious of the fact that the cold wind is actually now galvanizing all that incubating viruses. Look, I'm not talking from a medical point of view. I'm not a medical professional, and I don't have qualifications other than my experience over 3 decades as a researcher, a seeker of knowledge, fact, and truth, and a visionary of sorts. I'm a writer, I'm a journalist, I'm an orator, a presenter. You're an artist, illustrator, animator, creator of graphics from nowhere kind of thing. So we both have the kind of
a graphic designer,
a creator from nowhere. So we both have the ability, as artists do, regardless of genre, to see the world in a certain way. So you don't really need qualifications for that. You just need critical thinking, which is hard, apparently. Thinking, apparently, is hard. Anyway, gosh, is that offensive? Not if you're watching it. You probably agree. If you've watched this far, then you're probably a critical thinker, or you're just using your phone as a dartboard. Please be aware, whatever you're watching me on, don't throw things at it because it's gonna hurt you. I'm protected. I'm protected. I'm protected.
Sorry.
Oh gosh, look, I'm sorry. This is crazy, but it's such a gray day, and I have to keep my spirits lifted because, whoo, it's so easy to get. And I've been already feeling a bit deflated because I still feel the grief for my mother so keenly. She has been dead for 6 years, and the more clarity I have within my healing, and I completely understand why people don't want to heal, because it brings clarity and people don't want to relive the pain. They don't actually want to see what they experienced and the part they played in contributing to their pain. I get it, because I have gone through it all. It's like, holy cow. No wonder. And the worst thing for me is now coming face to face with, I have gone through being the little girl witnessing her beloved mother's pain, the violence that she endured. I'm sorry. I've chosen to mirapy. My therapy is me. My therapy. Myrapy. Mirapy. Ourapy. I'm not being clever, and I'm not at all condemning therapy. If it works for you, you just want someone to understand you. That's all. You just want someone to listen to you, not get tired of listening to you, to not advise you, to just listen and then hold you and protect you and just be there for you. And a lot of people want other people to tell them what to do. It is undivided attention. So therapy was never going to be for me, because I have experienced undivided attention. I chose to lead a visible life from the moment I turned 18, and I hit the ground running. I said, no one is going to know about my childhood and teenhood grief. My trauma. So I used visibility to hide that, because I also had privilege, and I wasn't going to be this selfish person who had trauma and privilege. Now trauma does, gosh, I don't mean to say this is a terrible thing, trauma is awful, but trauma does get a lot of people attention. There's a lot of people who know that misery gets more attention than joy. If you choose to be joyful, yeah, you're going to be seen as mad. I'm seen as crazy and mad because I choose love, I choose happiness, I choose truth and clarity, I choose transparency, I choose humanity, I choose to share. So with that, my therapy, of course, finally unpacking my trauma, for me, had to be visible. If I used visibility and the modicum of fame I achieved as an invisibility cloak, then I am going to take that cloak off in public, and I have been doing that quite steadily. And people think I'm mad or a loose cannon. I assure you I am not. But I am no longer the fort of warfare or defense. The world has been contaminated, folks. I'm sorry. But we have all played a part in it, and we have the only way it's going to heal, the only way anything is going to change, regardless of the activists, regardless of the activism, regardless of the performative activism, which I guess every little thing helps, regardless of how we feel. Unless we confront, understand, heal, and change ourselves, nothing's going to change in the world. People jump on the advocacy bandwagon, even the good people, because it stops the clarity. So it's like, no, I know I'm traumatized, blah, blah, blah. And then it's the guilt for feeling traumatized, you know? You asked me about this morning, my darling, because, the grief I feel. My mother's grief now is what I feel. Not just the grief of seeing her being battered. Oh, my mother never took it out on me. But I would catch her crying, and I can hear her crying, and I can see her crying. So I used to just, and I'd see her praying. And I think that is why for so long I have had such a terrible relationship with the idea of God. And I certainly still do not see religion as anything but segregatory, when it should have been, it could have been a wonderful way to guide the people of this world from whichever region they came from. A wonderful way to see how to corral emotions and thoughts, etc., and make a choice for yourself to be a good person. It's just an externalization of things we have inside us. But people don't want to listen to themselves, and they certainly don't want to listen to other people. So you've got to put them in fear of something. And God, which is such a beautiful, beautiful thing, is now mostly about fear. And people pray to God before they know themselves, instead of knowing themselves first and then praying to God and saying thank you and okay, I understand, and help me out on these things. Instead, people pray to God to keep them good, to grant their wishes. It's all quite selfish, I feel. God is a beautiful thing. I have now understood God, and I've been shocked by the fact that yesterday publicly I said I believe in God, and then I repeated this last night with you, darling, that I can't believe I've said the words out loud, I believe in God. Oh my gosh, it's still quite a shock. It is akin to how it felt to finally saying the words, I need help. And that was in June 2022, in our wonderful abode where we were living in Suva in Fiji, which is such a wonderful story because we actually got to live in Fiji as husband and wife, as wife and husband for a few months. We would have liked to be there longer, but and it was actually the apartment that Dwayne lived in prior to moving to Australia, and Dwayne's mother was still in it. So it was a wonderful transition. We didn't go into a strange place. We didn't go into some place that we went back into the echoes of your life there, and we transitioned with my mother-in-law, and that was lovely because she's a hygiene freak, which is wonderful. And so we knew the place was going to, it was going to be lovely and clean. And why I know that for sure, because not that there's no pedantic stuff. You're not pedantic. You're not anal about it. You like a clean place, so you're going to clean it.
Yeah.
And I love that because I like a clean place, but I don't want to clean it anymore. I used to. I was a step-parent to 5 children, all right? I loved all that domestic side of things when I first went late 20s, had to do it by myself. Anyway, I did say privilege. Yeah. Therapy, right? Therapy. Oh, gosh. So I said the words, finally. I need help. I broke because I was finally safe enough to do so. I really, really felt like it was me just letting go, and I have described it as an ocean of depression. I'm sorry for this deep, intense, but look, you know what? I want to talk about this, and this is what I'm saying. I want to be on this new show we want to have. I want it to be a bit more, to give you privacy, because I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to tell the truth. I'm not afraid to mention either that as much as I expose the demon that is my father for who he really was, my gosh, I loved him. And I hate that I have to do this, because he was a brilliant, brilliant man, and I now understand, because I can actually feel my mother in me. I gave birth to myself, and I'm healing. And that means I'm healing throughout my ancestry. I feel my mother heal in me as I heal. I feel her in me as my child. Like, okay, Mom, time for you to heal. You gave your entire life to me. So I can actually feel my mother. And that's the grief I'm feeling right now. My mother's grief that I never knew. That at 53, when I was 21, oh my gosh, I was living my life and just fame erupted into me. My mother was 53, and I am 53 now, and I'm just thinking, my God, mother, my God, you were alone at 53. 53 is so young. She did not want me to be alone. I know it. She communicates to me via our cells, via her DNA in me. How is that not a plausibility? Children are the walking, embodiment of their mothers, the DNA individuals, and that's what some mothers don't quite understand, and that's what patriarchy doesn't want us to understand, doesn't want anyone to understand. Women are the carriers of our line of species. It is our responsibility, but not our role. No longer is it that we have choice, because the world is overpopulated. What a grief I feel. Anyway, that's where I broke in Suva, in that wonderful apartment. It was a beautiful apartment, and of course I made it ours. And then, so as I was saying on that show, so I want to give you privacy. It's a closed show, so you can ask a question about something, where you can share your experiences, how it feels, because not everybody wants to be this transparent or this visible. People want to talk about mental health, but they don't really want to go into what happened to them. I could finally break, because as a friend who, has her own trauma that she hasn't confronted yet, has nowhere near healed, instead it's just getting worse really, but has the strength of wisdom enough and our connection enough. And she doesn't understand that we're connected because I can feel people. And I can feel people is because I can read people, because I've had to learn to read people from feelings before I even knew words as a baby. I had to understand what is going to trigger that person who's supposed to be my father. Why is he hitting my mother? Who just, the love I get from my mother. Oh, goodness me. So I can read people, and if people think that that makes me psychic, so be it. You can feel people. So this is why I know this friend of mine who told me this very, very wonderful thing. She said you can finally break because you finally feel safe enough. Dwayne to me is a gift from my mother. She did not want me to live the life of grief she lived, and I don't want you to live a life of grief. Life is beautiful. And see what people who haven't resolved their trauma, see how they're taking it out on the world, and the rest of us are taking it out on ourselves, and then leaking and hating other people, and begrudging other people their happiness. And I too am a detractor of people, because I can see when people are hiding their trauma, whether it be through fame and celebrity or sabotaging others or genocide, whatever, it's just... I don't want you to feel grief anymore. You need to confront yourself, and you are going to go through worse grief, because clarity brings worse grief. That's the thing. Oh, so I was able to see everything that I had suppressed for 51 years. Oh, but the cracks started showing when my mother died, and then I've had a series of breakthroughs, 2018, 2019, and I really asserted myself, and I really stood up for myself. So I believe in God is now, because of a series of things that have happened to me in between all these things, these breakthroughs, being able to say out loud that I need help. And that was because Dwayne and I would sit every evening. We have a back room in that wonderful apartment that is no longer in the hands of the wonderful landlord, Uncle Ed. Well, I'm keeping people's privacy, so I'm not calling him. But we have a playlist of DDV media on our YouTube, on our channel. So if you feel like it, go and watch the Lorvo. It's long, it's a slow burn like Lorvo is, but that was done in the backyard of our wonderful apartment. It was such a safety zone. It was such a sanctuary and abode because of just not just the fact that Dwayne used to live there, but Uncle Ed used to be a teacher of mine. I just felt safe, and I finally felt safe, and was able to have the breakdown I needed, the real breakthrough. I needed to break up with what it is that I was holding, and really truly felt like, for me, it felt like, I had been holding on to that ocean that was going to drown me, because I have always looked at this, I didn't call it depression, I just felt like I was holding up an ocean, holding it out like a superhero in superhero pose. And it couldn't touch my hands. The ocean was so high. But at times, as the tide would ebb and flow, at times over my life, I have felt the ocean has come crashing down on me, and I have had some terrible, terrible moments all by myself. Suicidal. Actively, in my late 20s, when I was, high profile personality and had a high profile job that no one knew what was happening in my mind or in my life, but I was being sabotaged and ostracized by liars and narcissists who hide behind their lies and their lack of integrity and dignity. And they do terrible things like try to kill their best friend, because the best friend has confronted them with a lie that they're saying. And look, don't think that I'm not aware of the parts I have played in this all, but I have come to terms with it. I have acknowledged it publicly. I have apologized to the person who tried to kill me, waiting for her apology. She's turned to Jesus now, of course. These people don't actually believe in Jesus. They use Jesus as a shield. Drives around with Jesus number plates. My gosh, how disgusting. Parks it at church and thinks that she's so special, and yet hates people, hates women. Hates women. Anyway, that violence upon me triggered the memory of the violence that I grew up with. So I would shut myself away all alone in my big house after being abandoned by my friends. Because I was driving them away as well. So I was so suicidal. I was just bad way. Yeah, that siren. Can you hear it? It was in a bad way. But you have to pick yourself up. And back then, what stopped me? What actually stopped me mid? Whatever. I'm going to put trigger warnings. What stopped me mid-suicide was the thought of my mother. But first, actually, the headlines. The headlines, and then, oh my God, my mother's going to read that. No. So that stopped me, and I stopped myself, and I, stopped myself, and then I walked back into, anyway, whatever, and I got ready and went to work. So I've not ever had, and I've attempted, I jumped off a roof when I was 16. But again, I stopped myself because it's like, well, wait a moment, I do want to live. I've got something to do next week. Whoops. So I broke my foot in half instead. And that was when I was in boarding school in Australia during the coup year. So I couldn't even go home. And I was alone, so alone. And I am talking about these stories I suppose it's so wonderful. I, as a professional media person, can still actually plug our other shows because I am sharing all of this in trauma therapy. It's there, it's a playlist there. If you want to listen to all of it, it's all there. My therapy finally had to come. And over time, that ocean of depression has started to drown me or push me down to the bed, to the seabed, or the ocean bed. Till I felt like even though 2020 was such a great year for me in asserting myself, and 2021 was such a wonderful, wonderful honeymoon period for us. But still honeymoon, still going. I shouldn't say honeymoon. You have said that, but I've said to you, no, it's not a honeymoon. It was just us knowing how it feels to live together in bliss, hard work and bliss, you know? And so we were lucky to have that because we know we can go through everything. We know we can live through everything. And I'll talk about it in more in trauma therapy with the things we have had to go through, but for the sake of the daily egg, I won't go too much into it. But I have come to these things, you know, 2020, when I broke through and I was having these, I have to tell you a story of what happened to me in 2019 in Corfu, Greece, where I actually behaved like a rock star and almost destroyed a bathroom at this Airbnb we were staying at because of the rage I was feeling. And luckily I didn't, because I still have this practical sense about me, like, don't do this. Cynthia, don't do this. And it's like, shut up, Cynthia. I'm not an alter ego. I'm talking, I know. But the practical side of me always takes a hold. But something happened to me that night, and I talk about this. And ever since then, my mother was the first miracle in that breakthroughs and the breakthroughs I was having, the cracks. My mother died. All of this happened 2020, 2021, 2022, then living in Fiji, I finally felt strong enough because he had been healing me. He being my husband, my husband being Dwayne, healing me, listening to me, go through some crazy things, listening to all my things. I have shared a lot. Publicly, I've shared a lot on the trauma therapy videos, and if you've been following my account on Instagram, I have truly been raw there. But there's still things I don't tell, but I told Dwayne everything, even everything bad that I've done. I'm not a bad person, I know, because it hurts me to hurt other people. And I change, I learn my lessons and I change, and I stay guilty for the rest of my life over maybe one thing I've done to somebody else's million. Anyway, 2022 finally broke in safety and said the words, I need help, which led me to now finally say the words, I believe in God. I believe in God. Because I know myself now. I know who I am. And the grief I feel that Dwayne said this morning, do you feel guilt? And it was like, oh gosh, yes, I do. I feel so much guilt. Because now that I can feel my mother inside me, now that I can feel her, not just see her through, because we remember everything. We just suppress it or delete it. We think, just send it to the recycle bin. Because, and so many of us suppress it.
Easier.
It's easier to suppress than confront. This is what I'm saying. Clarity is difficult. Healing is difficult. People aren't healing. They're just acknowledging trauma and wallowing in it. It's easier. Because once you acknowledge it, that something's wrong, you've got to then do something about that. And that is not easy. And I certainly didn't, so I knew something wasn't quite right. Why am I suicidal? Why am I, this is before I broke. Why, and then I actually stopped thinking about it. our years together, darling. But then I started telling you that, darling, I'm actually suicidal, and you're like, how? What do you mean, And you never really asked me whatever, never said anything to me, you just listened to me. I don't know how I've told you, when I told you. But no one in this entire world before Dwayne knew that I was suicidal. My mother was a healer, a physical healer. So she could feel me. She would always say to me, better. She was a reflexologist. Acupressure. And she would massage me, this petite woman with her broken bones, so strong, steel hands, gentle, silky skin. Massage me, and she knew that anyway, but I knew something was wrong, because how can I, in this privileged life I live, and that's where the guilt comes from, how can I? And that's why people with privilege are feeling so guilty, and the more privilege they know they have, the more they want to advocate, because of the guilt they feel for feeling traumatized by their trauma, whilst also being privileged. And so everyone then forgets about their own selves and advocates for everything else. But everyone's so angry. And unfortunately, the collective trauma is making us individually worse. I know, because the more I heal, the more I realize, holy cow, I can't heal. The world's in pain. Other people are in pain. People I care for are hurting. I can see people who don't like me anymore, who I've offended, or who I've had an argument with, or who I've cut out of my life and ghosted. I can see how their hurt is making their behavior this way. I hurt for them, but I don't want them in my life anymore, because they don't have the strength, nor the transparency, nor the courage, nor the love to heal, because it's all a choice. And I can say that because I've gone through it, and I'm going through it. I guess that's why I sound harsh, and people don't want to listen to that. I've got to be gentle. We don't have time to be gentle. We have got to heal. The world should have been becoming better. We are supposed to evolve. We're, as I say, we're in the Middle Ages still. We haven't evolved. We're in the technologically advanced Middle Ages.
That's wow. All right.
I think it's something that has come from both of us talking about what's going on right now, because you keep asking, why haven't things changed? Why are women fighting for rights still, and even worse? Back then, the women's liberation, mostly led by Euro white women, it was about, don't constrain us, let us work, whatever. Now we're fighting for womb rights? It's crazy. Ugh. Clarity, folks. Clarity, my friends. Clarity is what is terrible in the healing process. Oh, the clarity that I got it was brutal. Brutal having to see what's happening, and that's still happening. I still see it, but it's what happened to my mother. And then I had to then confront what happened to me. And it's, wow, crazy to see the physical abuse I got, the batterings, the comas I was in, unable to walk so many times in between 12 and almost 16. Almost 16 was the last time I got a battering. This from a man I still will acknowledge was incredible, because you know what? I have my mother's DNA in me, and I can feel why she loved him. I can feel how he made her believe that he was truly going to protect her and give her a beautiful life. And they can be a unity, a partnership, because they had such passion and love and beauty together. Beautiful people are meant to create beauty together. That's what human beings are supposed to be. And you don't have to have children to create beauty together. But I can feel it when I am feeling safe in the arms of my husband. And I can feel I can feel my mother's happiness for me in my DNA. I can feel her happiness for me. It's crazy. You need to understand that this is fact that I am feeling because we are present in our mother when our mothers are in our grandmothers, in our grandmothers. It is through the woman that truth is found. So if I have chosen not to take, I say dilute, but I have chosen to not take, whatever it is, I'll message the truth out of me by having children, but that doesn't mean I don't know the maternal bond, because I have a very strong maternal bond with my ex-stepchildren. I no longer have them in my life because I feel as adults they are not deserving of me, and they had to work on some things as well. I know that sounds terrible, like it's conditional, but I have always said my love is never ending, but it is conditional. It is selective and it is conditional. You have to be deserving of my love, and it's never ending. I will give it to you generously from the start, but be deserving of it. Feel that love, see that love, and know what you are then able to be capable of under the guidance and that light and that glow of that love. I had it from my mother. When a woman especially is loved, especially by someone who truly loves her, everything just rights itself. The body regulates itself. Once the mind knows, I'm safe, I'm actually loved because I feel trust. Once the mind knows that, all other problems disappear. I am in my 50s and I'm reading other 52, 50, 51, 52, 53-year-old women, mostly European, who are having terrible experiences with menopause. And I had perimenopause in my 40s, very early, 41, 42. And I experienced, I had the last flush of my fertility from the years of 38 to, say, 43. And, and electricity and that sexuality came back into it, but I was also perimenopausal, and my body was had shaken me up to remind me that you still have time. And when I said, nope, I don't, I don't want to, whoo, hard. I went into perimenopause. Great. So that was my 40s. Great, because in my 50s, with all this accumulated knowledge and skill and experience that gives me what people call wisdom, 50s is where it should all start. I feel getting to 50 is such a gift. It's such a great thing. Great. It's a given. You should make it to 50 with health. With health. I have always known my entire life that I wasn't going to be 50 the way I was. I was going to be magnificent and I don't know, I didn't know the words, I just knew my life was going to be different. In yesterday's Daily Egg, I talked about I had been looking forward to being 50 since I was 20. Because I knew how I was going to feel in the years in between. So I was so excited, and I am very happy to say I've fulfilled all that. But still am. So my body has regulated because I am loved, and I'm safe, really safe. I'm safe. I have trust. I don't have the digestive issues I've had for 15, 18 years, from mid-30s. I couldn't eat fruit. I couldn't drink coffee. I couldn't do anything. My body, But don't think that I have been lucky because I'm like, oh, you're so lucky. No, I've paid penance, I paid the price, and I have done work on myself. I've worked on myself. Really confronted myself, even before, when I was in my trauma fog, when I was just sort of confronting myself as, do I want to be a good person? I was still in denial. There's still things I've done that I'm not happy about. My trauma still leaked in bad behavior, and I have, exhibited narcissistic traits and acted on narcissistic traits. But we all can without being an actual narcissist. It's like I also talked about yesterday how as a trauma person, as a person with trauma, or maybe I wrote it somewhere, I have recognized that I have ADD and ADHD symptoms, or like symptoms. I haven't been diagnosed with those things. And because of that, I recognize that the brain fragments or fractures or fragments because it's stunted in its growth, but still needs to, because life always finds a way. The brain is life, and the brain will always evolve. Stunt it, it will grow somewhere else. It will maybe not so good, depending on how that person's psyche is, or something within that person. Is that person predisposed to be an asshole? We certainly are all capable of being that. But, look, I think it's all a choice, and I had to make some choices, and I had to really look at myself after I broke, and after I just wanted to heal. I'm bored with this misery. I'm bored with it. I'm bored with the stress of cost of living that's keeping people from doing what they really should be doing, or their potential. People don't want to work. People want to be. People want to have purpose. People want to create. People want to have purpose. And work gives us purpose, so people, when given the choice and not having to struggle, we work in some capacity or the other, just to give us purpose. So the words in between, I need help and I believe in God, have been a long, long, arduous, painful, journey. I believe in God because I finally know myself, and I'm still learning. It's a work of progress, not a work in progress. When for me, the words matter here. Work in progress means that you're just going to pass the buck. You're just going to say, look, I'm a work in progress. It's not progressing. I'm a work in progress. But a work of progress puts progress in the spotlight, because that's what's happening. Progress is what's happening every day. The more you work on yourself, progress, a work of progress. Oh God, stress and cost of living, and yet still I recognize my privilege, our privilege. We're not worried about bombs falling on us. I had a terrible. Was it the other night? I said, oh my God, imagine we're just sitting here, just in silence, enjoying the afternoon, the birds, etc. It sounds so peaceful. Beautiful sun, going down. And I just jumped because I thought, wow. Imagine just having a whining sound that you're not really focusing on, and then bang, a bomb falls, Check your privilege. Also, imagine that you have to wake up, and in the morning you wake up and you have to go and do hard physical labor as a child. As a parent, you've got to put your child to work because no one can afford anything anymore. Imagine doing that in the countries in Africa, in everywhere, in India, in Southeast Asia. Imagine that. Imagine the labor that people have to go and do in supposedly developed countries where people are actually starving and no one can really pay their bills. At times I've had to ask for leeways, on people bill pays. We have no debt, but I've had to, because it's like, this is crazy. As creatives, as freelance creatives, our output is 25/8. Forget 24/7. We have to work 25/8, because even when we're having the chill times, we're still talking. We're still imagining. We're still like, okay, what can we do? What is it about? Let's tweak something here because they're not responding to those media kits, etc. What can we do? What can we do? Dwayne's like, okay, look, let me just go get jobs, etc. But we've experienced that. Dwayne has had 3-4 jobs, and I see how it just destroys the soul. And when I was healing, when I couldn't work, that was wonderful, my darling, because and your goal was for me to heal. So I couldn't work, and that's luxury. Imagine, a lot of people don't have that. That's why people go on antidepressants, etc. I did this naked-minded. I'm not saying that you should do this too, but I have understood what antidepressants do. I have done this with medical consent. My doctors, I talked to them about it, and I said, I don't want to do it. And they said, okay, good. But, God, at times I really understand why people choose medication. Again, the other thing is, we don't have children, and we don't have those responsibilities of other people. So I have been allowed to heal at my pace. But holy cow, it's not easy. You know, like the brain fries they're not good, the brain fries. Anyway, now though, I can feel my mother in me, and that's why I believe in God. I feel my mother in me. I feel her communicating with me. It's like, think about her all the time, and she's like, oh, poor Beta. You know, like, stop thinking about, just like, she wants to also enjoy herself in me and enjoy life through me. She's always put me first. She didn't even tell me that she was known for her singing voice back when I used to sing professionally. She used to love it. She loved seeing me in the papers. Now I can get to know my mother through my DNA and through what I'm finding out. I'm understanding why she loved my father. I'm understanding why back in those times I don't forgive him. As far as what he did to her, I don't care what he did to me. Forged me, couldn't break me, dickhead, weakling. Magnificent man, brilliant, beautiful, charismatic, so just brave, fearless, you know, loved having Sushil, my mother, by his side, because she too was just a global woman, exemplary. But he couldn't handle some of the things they had to put up with. Remember, these are brown people who were traipsing all over Europe in the 60s and 70s. Yeah. Glamorous, beautiful, brilliant. My father. Imagine the racism they had to encounter. So who knows where his rage came from, but I think it came from him as a child. And, you know, not being able to resolve it, not wishing to punish himself, but wanting to let out the rage. And this is dangerous. And look at what happens to the world when people who don't regulate their trauma. And of course, all these things are new psychology terms of the modern day. Emotional regulation. People, you can tell the world's in therapy because everyone's talking these same terms. Coping mechanisms, emotional regulation, they're great. Triggers, etc., etc. Which this is full of. This show, this life. You cannot blame other people for what triggers you. I've done it. I've blamed my husband. You've triggered me. I've been blamed. You've triggered me. Oh, bullshit. Being triggered just shows you, oh, whoa, you haven't healed from that. And it's okay to tell someone else, I need you to just amend your language, or amend the way you talk about something, or the way you talk with me, because something does trigger me that I do need to work on and get stronger with. Oof, gosh, but you know, I feel my mother in me. This is why I believe in God. Because it's miraculous. The scientific fact is actually a feeling that I can feel, and it's fact. My mother is in my DNA. I came from her. But anyway, thank you very much for watching today's show, because it is now time for the Daily Egg. And it's very appropriate for what we're talking about. Thank you very much for listening. If you've made it this far, I hope you do. I hope you do. And we'll talk more about the subscriber only show, where you can be this naked in privacy, or if or you want to share something about yourself, and let's share it all together. It'll be an interactive show. We can be transparent. You don't have to be, but if you want your voice heard, we can be there for you. Thanks for being here today. Bye.